Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome to the Tactical Baby Gear Podcast. I'm your host, Beav Brody, and today we've got Matt with us. Matt and I go way back. We've been friends since we were roughly 10 years old, and in this episode, we go into some deeper discussions around kids with special needs, because Matt has a child with special needs, and so there's some really interesting things that we go over and talk about regarding special needs, and then we also tell some pretty funny stories from when we were younger and get off on a few tangents. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hey, so what do you call a cow who just recently had its baby? Decaffeinated. What's up, guys?
Oh, man.
We got Matt with us here today. Matt is he's my homie from back in the day. Matt and I have been best friends since we were... When did you actually move here? I don't remember. I always say like 8, but it's probably more like 12 years.
This is where Heidi gets a little confused with me because I don't remember times and dates. I can't tell you when we moved
so, here. But it was around that time. We were young kids, and all we did was ride bikes. But anyways,
everywhere too.
Like
bicycles.
Yeah.
Yeah, bicycles. We were hardcore into BMX biking. And
did you put the baseball card on it? Like,
no.
You weren't cool then.
No, it certainly wasn't that cool.
And the funny thing was B was really into rollerblading at that point too.
Yeah. I was transitioning from like rollerblades to bikes. I had always been into bikes. I broke my leg on a bike.
Common thing.
My other leg. And recently I broke my leg on a skateboard.
See?
Anyways, this is Matt, and he's a customer service guy here. I'm fortunate enough to be able to hire him and bring him on board, and he's really helped. And a lot of you guys have probably talked to him before through email or Facebook messages and things like that. So we're super pumped to have Matt here. And the whole reason he's on the show today and what we wanted to talk about was he's got a kid with special needs. So we thought that'd be a really good topic to talk about with you guys, is special needs kids and some of the just like life of a parent of a kid with special needs, and like the kind of like interesting facts or nuances, or I have a lot of questions just from a parent that has kids that are asking about kids with special needs, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to cover a lot of stuff here. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then Alex is here with us too.
And I'm here.
Oh yeah, and Alex. So Matt, here's what's interesting so I talk about you being a parent with a special needs. You're not actually Trenton's dad.
I am not. I met Heidi when Trenton was 4.
And what I really commend you on is taking on the responsibility and the role of Trenton's dad. And you stepped up to the plate. Like, you met Heidi knowing Trenton, knowing who Trenton was and all about Trenton, but you weren't scared of that. And you just kind of like took it and ran with it and owned it, and gave Trenton a father figure that cared. And you do an amazing job with that. And I really commend you for that.
Well,
that takes a lot
of
that says a lot about you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It really speaks to your character.
So anyways, interesting stuff about special needs. Is that the proper terminology to say? There's a lot of derogatory terms, like especially with like little people. They don't want to hear midget. You know what I mean? Yeah. And kids with special needs, or any person with special needs, like the last thing you want to say is retarded. Like that's like a no-no.
But and from conversations and stuff I've heard and being around certain people, like they don't take a lot of that stuff to heart. You have the select few that will, but most people just kind of brush it off, roll it off, and
right.
Yeah.
Of course, if somebody said that to you in a derogatory way, you'd probably punch them in the face.
Oh yeah, it was like clearly
like, oh, your kid's retarded. Like, okay, I'm knocking your ass out.
Yeah, then that's a different story.
But if you had just overheard a conversation between two people and they said that, you'd be like, well, whatever. Brush it off.
Just a word.
Yeah.
I don't even think it really bothers Heidi too much. Like I said, if somebody said it on purpose, meaning to do harm, probably a different story.
Yeah.
So
knock him out. Choke him out. So you met Trenton when he was 4, and he's 14 now.
He is. 15 in August.
So crazy. Because I remember you worked for me then when you met Heidi back in the car shop.
I did.
And so I remember Trenton when he was 4. I've seen it all happen as well. Obviously not quite as close to Trenton as you are, but I've seen it all unfold. So what are the things that you've seen, or what's kind of gone down in the past 10 years with Trenton? What have you learned? What are things, any crazy stories or anything?
I don't have too many crazy stories. I have probably a lot of stories that you could probably relate to, and Alec, well, maybe sooner or later when they get a little bit older. You know, like, he does not behave very well.
Okay, so let's talk about, before we get into stories, why don't you explain to everybody Trenton's situation?
Trenton, actually, I was talking to Heidi a little bit this morning, doesn't have a diagnosis. There's not a, autism, or whatever other things. She gave me severe intellectual disability. I'm sorry. But from when I was, just looking up, seeing, what characteristics and stuff like that, when I was doing my little bit of research when I had time this morning, it was, for a certain group of people with a lower IQ that just develop a little bit slower than others.
Right. So he does not have a diagnosis. But I've heard you say a lot of times to people who've asked, or even to me or whatever, it's like he has autistic traits is probably the closest relatable diagnosis-ish that for the people listening can relate to, trying to paint a picture of who Trenton is.
And the funny thing is,
it'd be like a severe autism type situation would be the closest thing, maybe.
Well, as some traits are there, some are not. Like he's extremely social. He loves people. He loves chaos.
But he doesn't talk. He's a nonverbal, doesn't talk. He can hear you and understand you.
Yeah, he's nonverbal.
He has hearing aids.
He has hearing aids. He has moderate hearing loss. So it's like how you have the headphones on. It's really muffled.
Right.
That's what we were told. And
what it would be like for him.
And he can hear. He can understand. Like, you say Trenton, he has his hearing aids off. It's not a problem.
Yeah, he gives me high fives and all kinds of stuff all the time.
Absolutely.
He just can't communicate with you other than like yelling, grunting, throwing something at you. So, he's like, if he wants your attention, you're getting hit in the head with a toy.
Or the foot. With a really hard plastic toy. And, just imagine going home, and I think about this is a lot more for Heidi than me, but imagine going home and just putting together up a meal on the table and hope it's right, because you don't know what he feels like.
Right. That's true. So that's got to be a very interesting thing. I know Heidi's been through it all with Trenton, and
she's a saint.
So you guys go up to MUSC, right? Every year, every 6 months or something, do a lot of testing.
She goes up there. I'm not sure how often it is. She goes up there and takes them and does all the stuff, and I'm not sure exactly to the extent of what they test or what I know they've done
but they're constantly testing stuff and trying to get answers and figure something out. Mm-hmm. Does he have to take a lot of medicines or anything?
No. When I had that conversation with Heidi when we first started dating, and she made a good point. She's like, since he can't speak, I don't know if certain medicines give him certain side effects, like an upset stomach or headaches, so we just kind of opt out of the medicine.
Right. It's so crazy.
A lot of stuff to think about,
Yeah, a lot. I mean, there's a lot of things too that people don't, and because you guys don't talk about it, but like he's not potty trained.
He's not.
He's got to wear diapers. You're changing diapers. He's 14, and it's like people try to wrap their heads around that, and they can't. But then they feel sorry for you, right? And you get I'm so sorry you're dealing with that.
Some people do say that.
But and how do you guys react to that? Because I know the answer to this, but I want everyone else to hear it.
You and I had this conversation before, just from conversations with other people in similar situations. If you, as you say, hey, sorry to hear about your kid, well, don't be sorry, because, they don't feel like it's a bad thing. It's just something that they're dealing with, and it's just
as a parent, you mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, and you guys say like Trenton's Trenton, like
Trenton is Trenton.
He's a unique individual, just like the rest of us. This is his characteristics and traits, and these are yours. They're just different. So don't feel bad for me. Trenton's cool as crap.
Oh, he is.
He's super cool.
He's crazy, but yeah,
he likes
really,
his music
really cool.
and yeah.
Yeah, that's the other thing I got a little bit better than y'all too. The music I listen to, he can't really repeat. So,
I never thought about that. You can say what you want, and he's not going to repeat it.
So it's so cool because he likes I'm a big hip hop rap fan, old school stuff.
Yeah.
And he loves the beats. He loves the hardcore drums, and those kind of sounds. So he obviously doesn't understand the music, but he is jumping up and down like a madman. He loves it.
Right. He likes the
And
rhythm.
don't let it fool you. Heidi has some music too
That's funny.
I'll throw
Well,
that out there
so speaking of not being able to repeat things and communicate, I know that introduces a lot of worries for you guys too, especially like medications. Does he feel well? Does he not? I'm sure there's ways he lets you know if he's not feeling good, but like food, or if you lose track of him. Like, so what are some of those concerns with a special needs kid? Are there things that you guys are worried about on a day-to-day basis that maybe other people aren't worried about, you think? Or is it just different?
Well, I mean,
like same worries, just a little bit different level or scale.
Probably same worries, just, I'm trying to think. Like, you got to watch. He has to be supervised.
Right.
Every minute of the day. Like if we're at home, everybody's in the house, we make sure the doors are locked, because if not, he'll turn the doorknob, he'll walk out the front door.
Right. So the concern with that is if he gets lost, we don't know if he has a good sense of direction or not. I don't know that. You might. Yeah, but if somebody finds him like wandering down the street, he can't talk to them.
Nope.
So there's not going to be like, oh, I live down here. Or, hey, what's your name? Who's your parents? Where are you supposed to be? You're not getting anything out of him. So that's like freaky.
Yeah,
freaky situation there.
It's definitely different.
It's a lot like losing a 2-year-old. know, which thankfully, in like yesterday's podcast, we talked about having a leash on your kid. but it's like, you don't want to lose anybody. But when you got a 14-year-old, you still have to supervise. It's not a 2-year-old anymore. So that can get, I'm sure, for you guys, just exhausting. And I know you guys have some great people in your lives that help watch Trenton, so you guys can go out and do date nights or go see a concert or do whatever. And you've got some amazing, amazing people surrounding you that really help with that and take a load off you guys from time to time. So that's really cool.
Yeah, we're extremely grateful for, everybody that helps out, because with my in-laws, her parents, or, when my parents were here, they would watch them. I mean, they know it's not easy. And
do you guys, sorry, this is like just kind of moving on to the next thing as I was thinking forward in my head, and I'm sure it's not easy. Another thing that's probably not easy is like schools, doctor's offices, schools, other public places that, because where does Trenton go during the day? Obviously, you're working, Heidi's working. What's he got going on during the day?
3 days a week, Heidi drives him to Hilton Head because he goes to Hilton Head Middle. And then after that, he goes to the rec center. And if there's not school, he goes to the rec center for their summer program or their spring break program,
And if I recall correctly, you guys had a hard time finding him, like when he was younger, finding a daycare that would take him.
Well, when I first came into the picture, they were at a local daycare here, which he was like one of the first 5 kids that signed up for. And he was there for 4 or 5 years, if I remember correctly. And then they pretty much said, yeah, we can't do this anymore. And his Friday will be his last day. It's like, that's like 2 days away, man. That's kind of tough. So I know Heidi went back and forth, but long story short, the rec center was more than happy to take him in, and they got some awesome people, and they do a great job with him. So I'm happy it worked out the way it did.
Good.
Because it's probably better for him.
So in our community, as far like obviously Hilton Head Middle is a public school, so there's obviously classes and trained personnel, if you would, to accept special needs children.
Yeah.
I guess give a little more detail.
In Hilton Head, I know I don't remember exactly because it seemed like it's changed a few times. But there's just a handful of kids in Trenton's class, like 2 or 3, but there's like 5 people. I mean, there's a lot of people to one person. So, his teachers and assistants are super nice and do a really good job. I don't know too much about the stuff here in Bluffton,
right?
Because part of the reason we left Bluffton school to go to Hilton Head was the after-school care.
Right, because it's easy to get them from there to the rec center.
Yeah, because they all have somebody that goes and picks
Transport
them up.
because it's right next door.
And you know how it is.
Yeah.
It's so close.
Yeah, they can walk there.
Now, was there things that Heidi did to look for, for people in other communities? Is when they just have they got a newborn and they're going to the doctor and they're finding out that that the child might have some special needs? Is there certain things that Heidi looked for to try to
early on
to try to get them into programs to obviously take care of them, watch over them, help them develop?
Sure. I would probably have to leave that more up to Heidi because
you weren't really around in those early days.
Yeah, in those early days, we haven't had a whole lot of conversations as far as,
right after he's born, and you're like, there might be a problem here. We need to look into.
I know
this.
It was a little while before.
Are you guys involved with any of the other communities in the area? Are there communities in this area for parents or families with special needs to help kind of support each other?
I'm sure there is something in place, but I don't know about it. Heidi very well may, but we don't participate in any of it, because the schedule is pretty tight as it is.
Right.
And, for the most part, Trenton has a good friend he used to go to school with, and he's a lot different from Trenton, requires a lot more care. So in certain points, I know with Trenton, it's probably going to be similar in most cases. You can only be in one place for a certain amount of time before they get a little antsy.
That's any kid, by the way.
Oh, I know.
My 5-year-old, 8-year-old, they're like, you get like 30 minutes to keep them entertained, and you better be switching gears and doing something else because they're not lasting much longer.
I would give a lot for 30 minutes.
What man, there's so many questions about it because there's a lot of, I think, unknown things. So I'm trying to ask questions that I think the community might be interested in.
So I'll throw it out there, because a lot of people ask, we're touching on it a little earlier, like with Heidi, he knows that he can get away with whatever he wants to. Oh, yeah. So like
she's soft, huh?
The behavior is a lot different. But whenever like she goes out of town with her friends or goes to the movie, I have him and I pick him up. There's very little problem. Like, I'm sure that goes around with every kid too. That, one kid has their favorite.
Yeah, their favorite parent.
Exactly.
Picking and choosing. He's like, you know what? I can get away with a lot with mom.
So Heidi usually thinks whenever she's out of town that I'm really busy, like wrangling him, and
you don't want to put that out there.
Don't tell her.
Don't tell her the secret. Don't tell her you got to figure it out.
Trust me. Everybody that watches him tells her the same thing. So like, it wouldn't be that secret anyway.
Right. How come he's so good for you? It's like my parents, or when my parents watch my kids, like, oh, they were angels. They're so good. You're like, really? Because they're like trying to do backflips off my couch, and they're just like sitting there like perfect little angels at your house.
See? Told you.
What the crap? What are some other? Speaking of my kids, we just got back from Disney World, and we're out in public, and and I'm sure a lot of other parents deal with this too, and their young kids see another kid with special needs and might be in a wheelchair or have like assisted walking devices or just acting different, and they point, right? Mm-hmm. And as a parent, you're so embarrassed. You're like, oh my God, stop pointing. You don't point at people. Stop doing that.
The parent of the kid pointing.
Yeah. And I'm like, stop. And they're like, what's wrong with him? And I'm like, no, shut up, because it's embarrassing. But so a couple of questions I have is, is there an appropriate or a better way for parents with kids that are being the pointer and asking questions and being embarrassing? Is there a better way to handle that or not, or does it matter? Do you guys with special needs kid, do you get offended by that in any means?
See, and that's another question that'd be hard for me to answer because.
So I need to have Heidi on the show.
Well, no, not even so much Heidi. It's because, beside Trenton's hearing aids, there's nothing really different about he's just a smaller dude for his age.
So you haven't experienced it.
So there's not a whole lot, of things. Like I said, some of the kids that Trenton used to go to school with or still does, they'll have a little more. They have their
visibly
wheelchairs.
You can see there's a big difference. They're different.
So I'm more sure of an outwardly handicapped that's more noticeable.
Handicap. Exactly. That's a good word that I've been trying to search for in my vocabulary, and it hasn't come up.
I use handicap in golf. That's what I use handicap.
Is handicap an offensive word though?
I don't think so. I don't think special need, because most people, it's special needs,
Right. That's like the proper terminology.
That's what I hear most.
Yeah, I can't stand. I want to like punch my kids in the face. Sorry, I mean I'm being a little aggressive there, but like it's just so embarrassing as a parent when you're like, "What's wrong with that kid?" And I'm like, "Stop! Don't you stop!"
But you also
and then you have to like take them off into the corner, and you have to be like, "Hey, listen." So some kids are a little bit different from you. Like they're no better, they're no worse, they're just different. Like,
and that's exactly
he has trouble walking, so he has to be in a wheelchair or this or that, and you try to explain it to them in a way of like, oh, that's cool, and like, and you're like, and listen, it's not, you don't point at people and you don't because they'll do that with like old people too. They're like, that guy's old, or like, I'm like, oh, look at that old lady. Like they have no filter, but they don't know any better. So
that's exactly
I assume,
right, though.
and this is me assuming, and maybe I shouldn't, that parents of kids with special needs, when they have a little kid doing that, they probably don't think much of it. They know that 4-year-old doesn't know any better.
I mean, the 4-year-old's just 4 years old. They're still learning stuff, and if they see something they don't understand, whether it's a person or an object, they're going to do the same thing.
Most of anything that could be offensive would come from a parent of like, they're just different, or they're kind of like awkward about it, versus being like, oh, he just has to have a wheelchair because his legs don't, or he has a problem walking, or
same thing with anything else. Somebody will take a little more offense to it, or what you said, or your actions, and some others will just say, yeah, he is different, or she's different. It is what it is, like, but you do have the select few that like, we'll jump on you for
really.
Yeah. So
it's such a touchy subject.
But everything is though. Same thing with politics. Same thing. Same thing.
And I don't want to harp on like, I don't know. I it's so funny because I'm over here worried about offending somebody, but that's like a serious thing. I feel like. Usually I don't give two craps about offending anybody about much of anything.
I don't.
But there's some things like that like, I don't want to offend somebody because their kid has special needs, or like, that's a totally different offensive thing.
That's just
in
a
my
level of respect for just
yeah.
You know what I mean?
But
just
it's
trying
also
to respect people in your community.
The person with the special needs, they didn't ask, for that. That was just the way it is. It's not. That's something that's completely out of that individual's control. So yeah.
Yeah. So, you guys see the doctor a lot. There's a lot of things you guys are always trying to get answers for. The expense of it, is there a lot of added cost and expense and things that you guys have to deal with in terms of that financially?
I don't really think so. I mean, he eats a lot. Trenton eats a ton. And if
that's any 14-year-old.
Well,
yeah, right.
I still eat
From
a
what
lot.
I remember.
My 3-year-old eats a lot.
As far as Trenton goes, he's a very small guy. Very small kid.
He's probably equivalent to like a 10-year-old size-wise.
I'd probably say 8.
8?
Yeah, 8 or so.
Yeah. And he's 14. So just to kind of put that in perspective for you guys.
And like I said, he will give me a run for my money as far as
and he's
food.
Skinny.
He's
He's like lanky.
So he doesn't sit down. Throughout I'm sure he sits at school and he does his thing, but when he's at home or on the weekends, from the time he wakes up to the time he goes to bed, he's not going to sit on the couch. He doesn't sit in the chair.
He's walking, wandering, pacing.
We're lucky if we get 10 minutes in a chair at the dinner table. So it's all go all the time. There is no stopping.
That is exhausting.
No naps.
Yeah.
I mean, it's go, go, go.
Were there naps younger?
Younger, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. And then we discovered that when I don't remember what point that was, when he started taking naps, at daycare or whatever, we realized he wouldn't want to go to bed until extremely late. And I was like, yeah, no.
Like, all right.
No
more naps at school.
Yeah, I need you to go to bed at like 8 o'clock.
But yeah, he is, like I said, from start to the day to the last few minutes, it's all go. There is no calm down. There's no.
Well, I'm
speed.
curious. Like, what about like television or like video games? Anything along those lines that seem to really grab his
phone
attention?
He's got.
Yeah, he has a couple of devices. He has an iPad that he also uses from time to time as a communication device in therapy.
Really?
Well, there's like you can ask like you want chips or drinks.
Really?
They'll put like photos up or something.
Put photos up. And
dude, that's actually sweet.
Yeah, that's a.
So we've actually tried a numerous.
Have you ever attempted any like sign language or anything?
Different ball game, I think, for us, because
really?
Heidi does, and he understands certain signs.
Really?
But he won't do it himself, so he still won't be able to communicate what he wants.
I taught my kids signing. Like we when more so Cameron than Kendall, because it was our first kid, and my older brother had done sign language with our kids. You guys did a little bit too, didn't you, or no? No, you just taught your kids Spanish.
Yeah.
we did sign language with Cameron, and we weren't real thorough with it, but she knew enough to tell us when she was hungry and she wanted milk or this or that, like, probably 10 things that were like instrumental in communication of like, I want more food, or I want milk, or I want this, or like, that was awesome. And if you guys are interested in that, it was called Signing Time. I can still hear it in my head right now. Signing with time. Oh yeah, but she was obsessed
with it.
A
lot of parents currently doing that.
It's huge. I really suggest any of you guys with kids that are like can't talk yet, that are like under, I don't know what, 2, I guess. I've lost track of some of that stuff.
Well, let's see. Anders is 13 months, and he's now getting like the mama and dad as kind of putting those.
Yeah, but still, anywhere from like that, probably 6 months to whatever. Like, try some sign language.
They'll pick it up.
Videos on like YouTube and stuff. Like, man, was that awesome! It was great because we were like,
it's extremely helpful.
You're crying because you want more food, or you're crying because you're hungry, or you're upset. Like, you can actually tell me this. It was amazing. It was, and they'll pick up on it big time. Really cool.
It's surprising how, like, you know, I think parents in general underestimate just how much a kid, no matter the special needs, you know, just how much they probably actually are picking up on. Just because, I can't have an intelligent conversation with you, so I'm just gonna treat you like a kid. Like, it's like, well, actually, like the parroting. It's like, they hear you across the room, even though you're like sneaking one under the table by dropping the F-bomb, but it's like, no,
like,
Johnny heard you.
Yeah,
they pick up on a lot. I think
it's way more.
You underestimate as a parent. You underestimate just how much they can actually do.
Right.
But nevertheless.
Yeah.
Wait, so you're asking about like the finance? So there are a lot of programs like offered by like local or state or even the federal government.
There's a lot of there's things you can go through South Carolina or whatever state you're in, and it's changed a lot in our household. So if you ask me today what it is, I won't know. I will know tomorrow, and then seems like a year later it's going to change again.
That's like the rest of my life. Alex manages like most of my life for me. People are like, "Hey, I'm like, I might have insurance for that. I'm ask Alex. I don't know what I've got. Like life insurance. Like I'm pretty sure I have that. Ask Alex what I've got." And Alex will be like, "Hey, do you have this?" I'm like, "I don't know. You tell me." Like, I don't have anything you don't know about. I'm like, "Hey, Alex, can you file my tax returns for me?"
Oh, jeez.
Gotta
no, seriously.
That actually happened.
It'll cost you.
Oh man, Alex is amazing. He is amazing.
But mine is Heidi because she has all that stuff that she does. And
she works at a bank. She is on it.
I've already had. She is.
She
like I said,
but you can't buy any surprise gifts though. You better be running it through that bank account that no one knows about, right?
Yeah. How do you surprise her?
Usually
like pull cash out and
my credit card she doesn't have access to.
Yeah.
Most of the time I just found it I found it better just go to the ATM, take out a couple $100 or whatever I need and do something like that. I absolutely hate things like credit cards. I hate having to pay something back. I hate it. So
I got to the point where I was like, if I don't have cash to pay for it, I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It adds a level of sting when you're like, that's $300. You're like,
yeah, because with the credit card, you're like, I'll just pay for it over time, whatever. And then all of a sudden, you're like, you make.
I
make
call it delaying the inevitable. It's like,
I'm
going to put it on the delaying the inevitable card because eventually you go pay for it, or you're going to pay twice as much for it.
If you got the cash, just give it, man.
Yeah.
I find that
those are lessons learned at young ages a lot of times.
So as far as Heidi, she keeps track of everything. She does such a, I don't know how in the world she does it. Like she's just on top of everything, and she's the one that does all of his appointments. Whether it's a haircut to the dentist appointment or doctor.
Well, so speaking of that, so my kids just had a haircut Friday, and we're finally getting into the stage where they can kind of sit in a chair and they're not freaking out. Buzzers for a little kid, just I guess my kids kind of freaked them out a little bit. Again, how does that change when you guys have to do things? If you so you can't communicate if my teeth hurt, my tooth hurts, or ears, or haircuts even. Like,
sure.
If he's full tilt 24/7, you can't get him to sit down. Like, what do you do? And then how does that just make the experience?
Yeah, like for a haircut, it's not as bad as I think it used to be. We have his iPod, we have a bunch of music videos, like Linkin Park or something like that, and he'll hold on to it, and somebody
keeps
will just
him entertained.
hold him back in the chair and just do a good enough job where
You're like,
many people would notice.
like that's good enough.
Right.
You know,
Good
but-
enough. I'd just start.
Even my
shaving his
kids, it was
head.
like, and we're fine.
And
yeah,
you know,
it'll grow back out in a few weeks.
like certain dentist appointments, I know he has to be restrained. You
Mhm.
know, you're
That's
getting
just what
into
it
his
is.
mouth, and I'm sure it, goes for a lot of kids.
Well, that can
But
be
Trenton
terrifying.
also bites, so
Ooh,
you might have to
ooh.
you have to navigate around that, Mr. Dentist.
Yeah, his teeth are sharp. You might want to dull them out while you're in there.
But
you know, speaking of haircuts and that kind of stuff, and you were telling me, you like, I don't know, when you came back and you're like, man, can you believe he's about to be 15? I'm like, yo, that dude's gonna be growing a beard. Like, can he grow a beard? And you're like, yeah, and I'm not gonna shave it.
I don't like shaving myself. I haven't taken a razor blade to my face since 2006,
Right.
and I will not do it again. And Heidi gets mad because she's never seen me without a beard or some kind of facial hair.
Right. Yeah. Brandy's the same
Yeah.
way. I
So,
can't remember the last time I shaved.
I'll
my
be
face.
glad to hit the buzzers.
Yeah,
The
trim
shaving,
it up.
yeah, well, we might have to.
I can't wait for Trenton to have a beard. I'm
Going with
assuming-
that like that 16-year-old stash that comes in.
I can't wait.
Oh yeah.
Assuming he grows one, he may not have like a lot of facial. He may not like some like Alex can't grow a beard.
shoot.
Forget about it. A little 5 o'clock shadow like 30 days later.
And it's awesome. We'll
I
go
think-
for a week-long trip, and then he's like, "You got your no."
Like, what did you shave this morning? He's like,
I'll buzz it before I get on the plane, and like a week later, I'm like, I look like this. It's like, whatever.
they look like that by noon. Oh man, that's funny. Any other interesting stories, questions, anything you want to tell anybody about like your experience that way?
I mean, I can just tell you about my experiences. You
You gotta have a crazy story. You don't have any crazy I want to hear something wild, funny stories, crazy story, and something.
All right, well, I'll give you one just because it was recent.
Okay.
I wasn't there for it.
Okay.
I just heard about it.
Okay.
And he recently went to the dentist. Like I said, he has to be restrained.
Yeah.
He has to be held down. And, usually you have to have like a little jigger in your mouth just to keep his mouth open. And at one point, he managed to throw up, like Heidi says, like a volcano all over the dentist.
Really?
So, yeah. And, like I said, when he gets into a spot where he has to be
Traumatized.
held down or he has to be restrained, just for a second, just to even put his belt on, he gets really anxious. And
I
he
would
doesn't-
too.
Yeah.
He doesn't
I'd be
like
ready
it.
to like start swinging.
So, I mean, it's a lot of other little things, but, as far as like my input, for maybe other people or other parents having to go through it, like you kind of have to have patience, which is something I don't have. That's something I'm trying to get. Because
You've
Heidi,
got some patience, bro.
I've
just to
been-
let you know.
I've been getting better, but I have my days, But
Well, any parent has their days.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm getting my
it's
kids.
the
Matt-
same
Matt
I'm getting my
thing.
come back
kids
to-
ready to go to Easter church, and the kid didn't want to take off a diaper from we're in the potty training stage, and we take it off for the day. We let them sleep. We're trying to figure out that transition, but the Joker just
He's like
every
"No."
other day for the past month, never a problem. Today, at 5 minutes before we need to leave the house, just total tantrum meltdown. And here I am hollering at him because he's trying to climb over the gate and down the stairs because because I took off his diaper, and you're like hollering and everything else. And you're like, and then I'm sitting in church and it's like the pastor speaking to me. I'm like, yeah, I probably need a little more patience. Hollering at my kid before Easter Sunday. And I don't really like to lose my voice, but I mean, it's a challenge no matter, if it's,
doesn't matter at all.
You combat that with a couple beers and everything's cool.
but it's just different level of patience on just a daily basis.
It has to be a different level, like I said, because at least some of like y'all, it's easy for me to. It's so nice because their kids tell them what they want to eat and all this other good stuff.
Matt
or, "I
watches my
want to do
dogs for me
this."
when I'm out of town. He's like, it's kind of a nice break. I just go hang out there for a little while with your dogs and watch some TV.
Yeah, and sometimes I don't even turn. I'll just scroll on the phone. It's just because I like quiet. I really do. Unless I'm listening to music, I like quiet.
So you don't like when I'm up here making a bunch of noise while you're trying to email our customers back?
Well, Brian and I were talking about that a little bit earlier.
You guys,
Well,
so my
earlier.
office up here where we're recording this podcast is upstairs, almost directly above Matt's office, and I walk around a lot. So I'm sure it's nice and noisy for him
I
down
don't know if that classifies as walking beef.
Yeah, stomp around a
It
lot.
sounds like there's 40 people up here.
Really? Is it bad?
Yeah, and Travis isn't here either, so it's just you. I know it's just you.
Hey, Alex, I need another space next door.
I'll get on that. No, but you really do, like, I know for me, as I've had the twins and then the youngest one, it's like you really take so much for granted. If, my kids were born and everyone was healthy and that little test they do right out, like in the delivery room, like on the scale, I think it's a 10-point scale and I forget the name of it. And they're like, everything's, perfect. The breathing fine and, all those little things, like the initial things that you find.
Right.
Like, you just start to take it for granted as they get older. If you don't encounter any of those,
Problems or
anything that, might hinder any sort of development,
Right.
And then, you hear other stories and it's like, it's, for a lot of people listening, like it's just, you got to be reminded if you got a kid that's happy and healthy. I mean, Trenton seems to be happy and healthy in his own way. You know what I mean?
Happy,
like
he's happy,
that in and of itself is such a blessing that so many people don't have because, I mean, I think about just like living in this country compared to, other kids growing up. Like you see those pictures of like kids in huts in Africa. Like, I mean, there's a whole different level of, imagine having special needs in a country where like you don't have running water or clean water.
Right.
I mean, not to go so extreme on it, but it's just like it's always good to be reminded. Just to, like, especially have a frustrating day, like I'm yelling at my kid at trying to get to church. And it's like, but I can go to church and I don't have to worry about getting killed by practicing my religion in my country.
Right.
And so, as it relates to just like everyone always loves to go online and complain about their problems. It's like. You don't know what other people's problems are. It's like if you put all the problems out in a bucket, you'll want yours back or your trials, your tribulations, your struggles. Let's call it right.
There's a lot of things that people go through, and we hear about a lot of them at Tactical Baby Gear. Right, we'll get those emails from customers wanting to return a bag, for example, because they lost the baby or this or that, and it's like things like that put stuff into perspective for me big time, especially when I'm out doing things with the kids and I might get a little frustrated and then I get a look from my daughter and it just like kind of melts your heart and you're like, man, something could happen tomorrow and you could be gone. And then it like all of a sudden the stress and the whatever of the line I'm in at Disney, whatever the case is, I'm like, doesn't matter anymore. I'm like, you know what? We're here. We're happy. Let's have a good time. Let's enjoy it because something could happen. You could be gone tomorrow.
True.
And that puts a lot of things in perspective for me. Like several times a week, that thought goes through my head. And it's like,
not to be so doom and
not to be real doom and
gloom, but
but like if you gotta keep that realize that, it changes the way you think. And I've had some and just like you said, like all of a sudden, like your problems, when you realize the problems that other people have, your problems disappear and go away. Or if you've been like in a really, really bad place before and you've dug yourself out of that hole and you might not be perfect or great, but you know how much worse it can be, all of a sudden, like the problem you think you're having today, that's not a problem.
Not much,
that your little issue that you're having is not a problem, which is why
like,
I'm so positive about things. And like very little things in life ever stress me out anymore. Like before I started Tactical Baby Gear, and people may not realize this because they see probably some of the success that we're having, and we've got this, nice little company, and everybody seems cool. But like 5 years ago, 6 years ago, I didn't know how I was putting gas in my car. I didn't know how I was putting food on the table for my kids. Like it got really bad. So like I'm at this point in my life, like there's a lot of things that could go wrong, and it wouldn't bother me. I'd be like, I'm cool. I'm good. No big deal. We'll figure it out. Like it's bad.
Yeah, I don't usually hold. I mean, I'm upset. I'm very opinionated too, so I'll throw all kinds of stuff out there. And I'm not gonna get into what Heidi thinks about my so-called angry driving. And
Do you need anger management classes?
No, I don't need anger.
No, I don't need them.
I just would ask the people in the left lane to do the speed limit or a little bit higher.
not asking for much. Go the speed.
That's all I need to make me happy through my
the speed
every
limit.
day.
Oh, well, speaking of cars, Do you guys did you need younger any sort of special, especially now getting bigger, too, is there any other car seats or anything else that have to be modified or anything along those lines,
there was
just
something recently
depending on the need of the child, or thankfully do a lot of stuff that you find at your Targets or whatever, is that sufficient to keep your child safe?
We did more after the first, I think, baby seat that they had when I first met them. I forget the name of the company. I think it was called Sun, but they made a specialty. It was rated for up to an 80-pound child, and it's full harness. I mean, it was really it was extremely heavy. You did not want to take this thing out of the car.
Right.
But as he grew past, he's not 80 pounds yet, but he's
kind of
growing a lot.
Yeah.
So, now he's in a seat with a seatbelt. In which we have to monitor that too, because once we get the seatbelt strapped in, he tries to undo it and wiggle out of it. So long road trips, if you're going for an hour and a half or more, you're going to probably have to pull over once or twice to get him back in the
Rebuckle him
seatbelt.
in.
Yeah, exactly.
Man, my parents probably had to do that every 10 minutes with me. I was like,
don't hold me back.
Yeah. And what's crazy though is when we were younger, we were bouncing around the car. I was jumping over seats and in the back of a minivan and
Oh yeah,
it's crazy, just how much things have changed. Listen to this. I'm driving down the road. This might have been Easter Sunday no, I was coming back from Orlando, and I passed this guy. This is on I-4, right outside of Orlando. This guy in this Volvo XC90 SUV, and they had a 2-year-old sitting on mom's lap in the front seat, just chilling out, going 80 miles an hour down I-4. And I was like, "But am I seeing this? Is that for real?" And they passed me. They were cruising. They're just brrr, and this kid's just sitting up front in the seat with mom, chilling on her lap. And I was like, oh man. So I sped back up to make sure I actually saw what I saw. I was like, oh man.
So I was in Cambodia doing some traveling with the wife.
Mm-hmm.
It was a family of 5 on a moped.
Oh yeah.
But 3 under 3. So one kid's standing up holding the bars. Mom's got 2 kids, and they're doing 50 miles an hour down a highway. No helmets.
Yeah. It's crazy. Somebody just walked in. I don't know. We might. Hey, Trav, can you see who just walked in? Was that Brian, maybe? Anyway, sorry to interrupt you guys.
But I think that the hardest part for me in this, with Trenton and everything was, when I see the neighbor and his kid out there playing ball or basketball. Last night we seen them playing basketball and they're having a blast. It looks like a blast.
Yeah.
I can't do that with Trenton.
Right.
Maybe
Some of
sooner
those
or later,
activities.
but yeah,
Can he ride a bike or anything? I know he's got a special bike.
he's got a special bike. It's a 3-wheeler.
It's a 3-wheeler.
If you have to push it, but it also makes him pedal. So even though he's not pedaling under his own power,
It's
his
moving his
legs
legs.
have to move. Yeah.
Has he picked up on that at all? Has it trained him to pedal at all? Does he pedal some?
He's had 2 of these bikes. I'll probably say for about 5 years. When he outgrew the first one, got the second one.
And they're
Now,
probably not cheap. I'm sure it's a specialized
there
cheap
is
or expensive bike.
luckily it was you pay a little bit and the rest of it was kind of donated.
Oh, that's cool.
So that helped out a lot.
Yeah.
But this was the second one's adjustable. He can ride that one for a while. But no, I think if you would just leave him alone, when we stop to redo his headphones, he's not gonna do it himself.
Right.
We really have to push him.
Right.
Just little things like that. That's the kind of stuff that I have a hard time with. Heidi's different, so she'll have different things. But when I see the neighbor kids
Doing other
I would
activities
really
that,
love to be able to do that with Trenton.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
Go take him to play some golf. Matt can drive a golf. You haven't played in a while, but that dude can drive a golf ball. You guys,
Still
Matt can hit
can.
it. How far? What's your longest drive? 400 yards.
I don't remember how long it was. I was asked to leave Port Royal Golf Club because I was driving into the people practicing on the other side.
Matt can hit a golf ball. You guys, that dude.
I used to be pretty good.
Well, we
How's the
used to-
short game? How's the short game?
Really, I was good. I was
Matt
good
was
player.
Matt was good at golf.
I was
Like,
really good. Yeah, I was really good.
Could hit
I
a
always
golf
I
ball.
always liked the beer.
I listen. So where we're from, and Matt used to work at the golf course, and we used to drive the ball picker on the range and pick up all the balls and just all kinds of like ridiculous things ensued. Like you could see Matt and I was out there like picking up. Anyway,
I used to like throw golf balls and
At
like
the guy in the
guy
cart.
would the guy would like
We used
clean
to
it
try
up
to hit him.
and then I'd throw him behind him just to piss him off. So.
all kinds of crazy
So much
things
fun,
ensued
though.
on the golf
That's what
course.
happens when there's like 50 golf courses.
I've
and,
only
like,
played golf on the golf course one time in my life, and we have more golf courses than anyone else in the world ever.
We got a ton.
We've got a ton, and I've only played on the course once, and I probably drink more beers than I hit golf balls because I suck at it. Like I used to live right at the golf course, and I'd like go out there at night when I was like 10 and swing, and like I could never hit. I just swing right past the ball and never hit the ball. And every once in a while I hit it, and it'd go like 3 feet or like slice way to the right and hit a tree, and then almost hit me, and I'm like, all right, I'm done with this. And then I got like RC cars out, and I go running like remote control trucks through the sand pits on the golf course. Like that was the fun stuff.
It was funny because back in those days, a lot of my life revolved around golf. I mean,
Yeah.
I know you'll remember. I used to throw a basket in the water with a piece of rope to it, collect the golf balls out of the pond,
Clean them.
That's how I paid for my bike parts.
You used to sell them to Frank.
Dude,
there was a marsh.
There
There was a marsh near where we grew up. We used to just like at 6 o'clock or something, go out there and collect a whole bunch of golf balls. The guy would come by like the next day, like, I lost that yesterday. Can I get it back? I'd be like, yeah, for a
couple of
buck.
bucks.
You know what I mean?
Oh, I paid for my first car with golf balls because my dad told me, he says, you're gonna save up some money, get you a nice whatever you want to get. So I saved up like 30,000 golf balls, and I sold them all and cashed out and bought my truck.
You sell them all to Frank? I know you sold a lot of golf balls to Frank.
I sold a lot to Frank. I sold to another guy the ones that Frank didn't want. So I still got my money.
I got some of that golf ball money back to my pocket after I built in that sweet truck for the general store. Thanks, dude. I appreciate that.
Oh, I love that truck. But yeah, it's just funny how that works. So.
Yeah. Well, man. Actually, that truck I built for Frank, we got from Matt. That was Matt's truck before it was Frank's truck. That blue
really?
truck.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You'll have to put like a photo somewhere.
Yeah,
here.
you guys have to see. So Matt,
if you're watching it on YouTube,
Matt drug this thing out of a barn. It was gonna restore it, and it was a project. And he was like, I bit off more than I can chew. Frank bought it. Frank has a general store, it's a 53 Chevy truck. It was all rotted out and rusty. And
I'll make sure I get you the first picture when it came out of the
yeah, we'll put it on the video on YouTube. I'll have to dig it up pretty soon so Travis can grab it. But anyways, we restored it into a patinaed resto mod truck. We put a LS1 in it, I think. Maybe it was a 5.3. I can't remember now.
I think it was a 5.3.
I think it was a 5.3. Fuel injected 5.3 current, Chevy truck motor that you'd find in any like modern Chevy truck or Suburban or whatever. It was awesome. Slammed big wheels from Detroit Steel Wheels and nice pretty wood bed. The interior was like immaculate. New seat. We got a custom seat we made, and it was a really cool truck.
It was super clean.
Yeah.
My favorite body style. I love those trucks.
Super, super cool.
So cool. Got a
All
gangster
right.
feel up front. I like that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
cool.
Well, we're getting a little off topic now, so we'll wrap it up here. Matt, thanks for coming on and chatting about the special needs, things like that. Alex, you have anything you want to say and wrap it up, or any other questions?
I'm good.
Good. Alex is a man of many words.
How was your weekend? Good.
Good. Guys, make sure that you subscribe on YouTube and iTunes and Google and all the places that you guys are watching and listening to this. And we really, really appreciate all of you.
Yeah, and obviously put in the comments if you got any other tips, tricks, anything else. If you're a parent that is obviously dealing with has special needs or can provide anyone that maybe just had a child born and isn't 14 years into it. Any advice you can give. Obviously, it's a community of trying to spread knowledge to better everyone's life. So
that's a big thing because a lot of people do depend on other people for information or what have you
there's
done.
just not a lot of things out there. It's because every case is a little different. So
every case, every individual is different. So that's the way it's looked at. So
cool, awesome, guys. Thanks for listening. Subscribe everywhere, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace.